Happy race day, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon for anyone out there in the East Coast. And happy race day, post-race day to those watching the F1 race. If you're in chat, I posted a cheat sheet this week. I went from moderately interested in DFS for F1 to I'm not going to do a cheat sheet. I'll watch the first couple of races to a day before the race. It's time to put a complete cheat sheet together. So it's out there. It's in chat. It's free to everyone. It's posted in the members chat as well as the new F1 chat, which is also open to everyone. I've got some links in there sharing for that. But now we're going to move on to NASCAR. We've got a bit of an unknown here, kind of like the F1. They've got some new stuff with the cars this year that's kind of making it a little bit more, I guess, more teams into it than just, say, Mercedes or even just Mercedes and Red Bull. Ferrari looks fast. So Atlanta is kind of presenting that for NASCAR today for us for this race. They've reconfigured it. I've got some notes here, and every week I'll have this up on the NASCAR sheet as well, on the cup sheet, race and track notes. So they've gone from the biggest change is 24 to 28 degrees. They've repaved it, so brand new asphalt on there. There are only 2 races in now. I believe they had a test here as well as now the truck race and the Xfinity race. Oh, by the way, I got this new coffee uptown. It's she actually crushes the beans for you. It's not just the Tim Hortons pods that I shove in that thing, but it is an espresso bean I've found out, and it's really helping with this F1 this season. It's going to be huge. I should really get them as a show sponsor simply because I'm going to need it to be up as early as some of these races, which I put together the schedule yesterday of all the F1 races. I'm going to be up real early for some of them or up real late on Saturday. So, might get them on as a show sponsor. Terrific coffee. Morning, JJ. Morning, James. Chase that Elliott. Wreck time. Yeah, no doubt. Looks like this final restart's going pretty good on the F1 race, but back to Atlanta. So we've gone from 24 to 28 degrees. We've got a brand new repave. What they're using is the 510 horsepower engine package, same as Talladega and Daytona with these new cars, as well as that rear spoiler is on there as well. So the question coming in was, is it going to race like a super speedway? We kind of seen results in the first 2 nights here, or Saturday, and even in practices that, yes, it's going to race like that. Probably a lot of 2-wide racing. They didn't really get a whole lot into a single file, but there was opportunities to pass, but only if you've got help. Single car dropping down is not going to get there. So it was a lot like that. Looking at the truck race here, we had 7 cautions for 40 total laps in that race, 18 lead changes. So there was a lot of lead changes in terms of laps led here. 20. So we had 3 drivers lead 20 or more laps. So it was kind of spread out. Then we go and we look at the Xfinity race here, Wreck Fest. It was like a Daytona and Talladega, just almost exactly. There was 10 cautions. Now, these are counting the stages as well, so keep that in mind. But there were more cautions, 56 laps, a few more laps in the race here. But in terms of dominators as well, it kind of looked similar. So we had Austin Hill starting 14th, Allmendinger starting 7th, 27 and 41 laps led there. And then down we had 2 guys, Noah Gragson and Trevor Bayne, starting 1st and 5th. They each led 38, but they ended up out of the race there. So we saw 4 dominators lead 25 or more laps in that race yesterday. I think that's possible here today as well. But again, we've got a huge unknown in this race. This isn't the old Atlanta. This is the best line I heard was on NASCAR practice yesterday, and it was if Daytona and Las Vegas had a baby, it would be the new Atlanta track. I've been waiting to say that for about 24 hours watching that practice yesterday, but it's kind of true. We do get the super speedway feel, but it's a lot shorter track. But we do get the banking now up to 28, so it'll be the highest banked intermediate track out there. So far, so good for what NASCAR wanted and what Atlanta Motor Speedway wanted as a product here. They kind of wanted this super speedway feel without going, full on super speedway and keeping it the 1.5 mile track. So bravo to them if they got exactly what they wanted. The racing's been pretty good to watch, but for DFS purposes, which is what we're here to talk about, it's going to be a little bit unpredictable. First of all, we got a brand new car. We've got a brand new track. We've got a 1.5 mile track that's probably going to race like a super speedway. So there's a lot of unknowns going into this race. So what I'm seeing the first 2 nights is we're definitely going to want some place differential. So I'm definitely going to be looking for that. And kind of aiding that is the fact that we get the lineup. The qualifying order was set by owner points. It rained out practice, but they moved practice to Saturday. They thought the 50-minute practice session was more important than the qualifying session. So they will line up by, it's a formula they use based on fastest lap from the week before, result from the week before, and averages, or it's some mathematical formula that we've been used to, and I still can't figure it out 2 years into this, the new pandemic, we'll call it racing. But Larson 21st is going to be chalk. Denny Hamlin going to be chalk. Denny Hamlin especially, he's good on the super speedways. I have added that to the sheet here. We're going to look at that a little bit here as well. But starting 21st and 15th, I think those are easily my top 2 drivers in the 9K and up. Add Truex in there, actually, if we go down to that 9K and up range on DraftKings, just because of their place differential. Truex points per dollar, 9,200, starting 26th is really good for him. He's been good at Atlanta. Now, like I said, this is a brand new Atlanta, so let's go look at how he has done the super speedways here. Recently, average start's been good. Average finish has been terrible, but he was 13th at the Daytona 500. He was 12th at Talladega last fall. So 2 decent finishes for him on super speedways, but starting 26th. Now I go and look at the matrix to kind of just see what we need out of him to hit that 5X is kind of what I'm looking for each and every week, barring like a road course or something. 5X is normally what I'm going to be looking for. 46 points. So at a Truex, we're looking for like an 11th or 12th. So we don't even need a top 10 out of Truex at his price. So that kind of puts him kind of in my core plays, just points per dollar wise. It's a very high floor starting 26 for him. We look at practice. He was a little bit disappointing, 21st overall in terms of overall average. He lost some speed in the 15-lap averages, as you can see here for sure. The 5 and 10, the short run speed was excellent, but he ran a lot of those laps in 15, 20. We'll go check it out here. Nope, he didn't even get up to the 20, 25, or 30 laps in practice. So it was a little bit disappointing to see that long run speed go, and that affected his overall practice average. But 13th, 10th, and 5 and 10 lap averages starting 26 at that price is just a very high floor. If I was playing cash games today, he's most definitely going to be in there. And I think you got to pair him with either Hamlin and Larson, or at least Larson. I like that 21st starting position for him. In terms of practice, he was 15th overall, but he got faster as it went. Again, one thing we're going to have to pay attention to looking at these practice speeds today is we don't really know, unless you watch the whole thing and documented the whole thing, who was drafting with who, how many cars were in each draft. So take all this practice info with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I do like seeing a driver that is trending in the right direction in terms of 5, 10, and 15 lap averages. So I do like that for Larson, especially starting 21st. He's probably going to be 60, 70% owned in GPP, I would think, for sure. This is a race where you can get leverage off of that for sure. But as for a core play in my rankings, he's got to be up there starting 21st. Denny Hamlin. So if I had to rank those 3 in points per dollar, I think I would probably have Truex points per dollar, followed by Larson and Hamlin as my top 3 drivers in that 9K plus range this week. And then diving down, let's stay on the place differential here as we go kind of into these value ranges. Brad Keselowski starting 24th. We've seen at Daytona how aggressive he is, how aggressive he is early in the season, especially at Daytona. In these super speedway races, he's been wrecking my one and done driver since Daytona. So I do like him starting 24th. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to be pushing to get up front for sure, and he'll do anything to win. So I'm expecting that as well. Teams seem to be important. Xfinity, yes, thanks, Liz. That's something that we look at super speedways all the time, is pairing teammates for working together, especially in that draft. And not only teammates, but more importantly, manufacturers we're going to see. So if you are looking for that information for anyone that is new, go to the entry list tab here at the bottom. As you've noticed this season, there are a ton of tabs at the bottom. Make sure to check out all of that. It all has relevance to kind of how I, each and every week, how I put together my core lineups and my research and that sort of thing, and the stuff that I talk about on the show. So make sure to check all of that out. And if you have any questions, make sure to ask on the show or in the comments on any of the videos that we do, or just in the Discord chat. If you're not a member, you can get into the Discord chat for free. The link is in the description of this video below. That'll get you in. There's no length of time for our trial members. We post some stuff in the free trials. We open channels. A couple times a week, different sports will open up and provide you access to the sheets, our picks, rankings, You always have access to our coaches, our winning picks channel, our main members chat channel. If you want to speak to anyone, definitely do that. Or if you're looking to grab a NASCAR package to get access to all our sheets all the time, as well as our coaches and all our NASCAR relevant channels, definitely head over to patreon.com/JagerBombs. And for $10 a month American, I think that's $13.50 Canadian. I'm not sure where that dollar is now, but I think that's where Patreon's got it. Gets you access to that. And if you play more than one sport, you can get access to all of our sports packages for $20 a month. And I think right now we're running about 10 plus with F1 added in there. So I think we're at like 11 or 12 sports, and baseball is back, baby. We got about 2 weeks to go. We just had who was that? Just crashed. I'm watching the F1 race. Sorry about the reaction time here live. See a Red Bull car. Was that Sergio Perez just turned? Oh, that's huge. So that pretty much tanks my lineups. I got one lineup left. Moving on, back to NASCAR here. Christopher Bell. I like the Toyotas today. He's number 2 in my model, as you can see, which, again, take that with a grain of salt. It has a lot to do with the qualifying inverse, which is just looking at like your place differential upside. He started 27th, and he had the second best average in practice. Now, I'd have to check and see exactly how many laps he ran, but he didn't run anything over a 5-lap average. So there's maybe a little bit of a concern for long run. But again, this is racing like a super speedway. Practice times become a little bit less relevant completely. So we could take out these practice times whatsoever. But even with that, if we take that out, he's still going to be top 5 in the model if we just count practice times overall. So take that for what you will. And if you want to create your own sheet, go up to, it's not shown here, but you go up to File, create a copy, make a copy, name it whatever you want, and then you can edit it, and you can come up here and you can edit all of these numbers, weights in the model yourself. If you need help with that, again, reach out in chat or ask some questions in this chat here live, or hit me up on Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9. Okay, moving down the board here, definitely like Christopher Bell, started in 27th. Ricky Stenhouse, he showed speed, so he was awesome, great short run speed here. Looks like Leclerc got the win. 17th overall average, 18th and 10-lap average, 12th and 15th. Atlanta has been pretty good in terms of where he's starting. He's got a lot of top 15s in here, 4 in his last 7 races, top 20s in 6 of those 7. Got in a crash here last year in that Atlanta race in the second one. Looking at his super speedway stuff, that's usually where we're looking at targeting him. He hasn't been great. Daytona was 28th. Talladega last fall was 16th, 23rd. And what we're kind of looking for out of him, starting 28th at this price is really nice, though, because we were looking for about 35 fantasy points, and that is about an 18th place finish. So an 18th gets him to value. I think he's obviously got upside on that. Probably, I don't think he's a top 10 car, barring other things happening within the race to get him up there, just out of straight projections, looking at speed of the car, team, that sort of thing. I probably got him in 10th, 12th, his upside. He's probably going to be high owned, starting 28th at 7,100. He helps make these lineups a little better. Sorry about the car alarm. Someone set their alarm off outside. I don't even know if you guys can hear that, honestly, with this mic. But if you can, maybe that's an alarm. Talking about Ricky Stenhouse, and alarms are going off outside. So that is a fade for me. I'm going to fade him. I'm going to take that as a sign, and I'm going to be fading Ricky Stenhouse today. All right, moving down, because some of the punt plays that I like, so that we can go and get that Larson, Hamlin, Truex if you want to play that place differential, which is going to be a little bit of expensive here. And I'm actually going to load up my DraftKings while I talk about this and build a core out here. Get into my lineups. I think I've got 5 reserved so far. And I will jump into that. So if we want to do that, we're going to need some punt plays. It's nice, though, because, again, if this is going to be like a super speedway, like a Talladega, Daytona, and we're going to see that, we definitely are going to, let me blow this up a little bit, see what we are averaging. Because we do have some place differential simply because of the way the field was set on those points. So we got a lot of these punt plays that are, normally we'd see some of them, 2 or 3 of the plays that we would like before qualifying come out and qualify like 20th, 22nd, which makes it almost impossible to play them. But, starting 35th, 40th, 30th, 35th around there, we can definitely start considering these guys. And if we go Larson, Hamlin, Truex here, we're left with 6,700, which isn't too bad. So We come down here, and a couple that I like way down here, LaJoie and Reagan. The model likes LaJoie here, starting 33rd. He's finished ahead of that in 4 straight here, and actually been trending the 22nd here in the second race last year. Looking at the speed for him this weekend, he was 3rd overall in that overall practice speed, but then 17th, 26th, 21st. David Reagan also stands out, 30th in overall speed, but 13th in 5-lap, 30th, 28th. So I probably like LaJoie a little more. I probably agree with the model, even though we lose 2 place differential points. But if we come down here and just compare them and what we need about 27 points for 5X. And I would even take a little bit less than that considering their price and how they're going to give access to elite place differential and elite drivers in the top. So like a 3-driver core at the top that all have elite place differential. I'm fine with a 4 to 5X, 5X ceiling for some of these guys down here. So we're looking for 27 points, and that puts us in a 24th, 25th place finish range for them. And if it races like a super speedway, that definitely opens them up for that, as well as, like I said, LaJoie, if it races like a classic Atlanta, which it's not, but he has shown that upside there as well, and that kind of consistency. So LaJoie and Reagan stand out. So if we just throw one of them in, I probably wouldn't have, if you're making rules for your lineup construction, and if you're going with these 3 as a core and you're maybe running that 10 times, let's say, what I would do is then start making rules that with your other 3 drivers, seeing as we're coming down here, we just talked about Reagan and LaJoie, they're in the same price range, is not have them together. Have one or the other mixed in with those 10 laps. So maybe 5 with LaJoie, 5 with Reagan, or say 3 with LaJoie, 3 with Reagan, and 4 without either of them. You maybe go a little bit more balanced because we were left with 6,700. So now it leaves you 74 with those 2 last spots. We can kind of start jumping up now and talking about some of these other drivers. Cole Custer and Harrison Burton stand out. By the way, Burton is going to the rear unapproved adjustments, but he's already starting 31st. So I'm not really too concerned with that whatsoever. He should get that back easily, especially, super speedway type race. Yep, I definitely like your core there, Gordy. That looks really good. You get a lot of place differential in there. So if it turns out to be a place differential race, you've got a lot of upside there. I like that a lot. But Harrison Burton starting 31st. I'll definitely consider him. Probably less exposure to these 2 guys than I would say Reagan and LaJoie. I do like the superstars and scrubs today. So a little bit less exposure, especially Custer starting 20th. He did show a lot of speed. 5th overall average, 13th, 9th, and 9th in 5, 10, and 15 laps. If we look at his super speedway stuff, he was 20th at the Daytona 500, 13th last year Talladega, and the other Talladega race 10th. So he was, that 10th and 13th at Talladega was nice to see. He's a little bit better at Talladega than Daytona, but 20th or better in 3 of his last 4 super speedway races as well. And at Atlanta, top 20 in all 3 races here at Atlanta as well. So I do like him at least finishing where he started. So a 20th place finish for him gets him 23 points, which isn't quite going to get there. So that's kind of the concern there. We're kind of looking for like a 16th to 18th for him to kind of push that floor that we're looking for at that price. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit lower on him than I am of Reagan and LaJoie. And I like Burton a little bit better because we're only looking for about a 21st. He can finish outside the top 20, kind of even in that, let's say that 20th to 22nd range. I think that's going to work out just fine for him. So I like Burton a little better. So I had to rank those 4 value plays, which are probably my favorite right now. It would be LaJoie, Reagan, Burton, and Custer. And if you were to come in and put Burton in there, that leaves you 85. So you can now come up here, and there's a lot of drivers in here. So let's talk a different strategy now a little bit. Don't see Kurt highlighted on the sheet. Thoughts there? Kurt Busch. Yeah, I like how he's cheap. 9th place. He's been good here at Atlanta. Let's look at his super speedways. 19th, 4th, 13th. I definitely like that. That is his last 3. Yeah, so we'll look at his last 3. Crashed out of that Talladega race, the first one last year. Let's go over now and look at his practice speeds, and then we'll jump over to the matrix and kind of have a look at that as well. So he's 13th overall, 23rd, 5, 21st in the 10-lap averages for Kurt. And at 8,400, we are looking for Definitely need 5x out of him, so that's 42 points. We're going to need, if he doesn't get fast laps or any dominator points here, we're going to need a 6th place finish minimum. Him starting 9th didn't really show that kind of speed, so that's kind of why I'm off him, especially because I'm going to have exposure to a lot of exposure to Larson, Hamlin, Truex, Kozlowski, Bell, who I talked about. Those 4 alone in, say, the 75, 100 and up range are going to be my highest exposure by quite a bit. And then coming off those guys, I was going to get into the next strategy, which was going to be looking at some dominators, seeing as we've seen 4 dominators and 3 dominators in the truck and the Xfinity race. I do think we see some dominators here today, probably 3 to 4 in, say, the 20 to 40 range, something like that. Maybe even, a few more laps. Maybe let's stretch that out to the 30 to 50 range. But I do think we do see some changes in that front guy. I don't think we see one dominator. So a couple early on that I like is Chase Elliott, Joey Logano. I think Hamlin can be a dominator. He showed a lot of speed when it, in some of these long runs. So if it gets stretched out, he's got a good long run car. Elliott was right behind him in terms of long run. If we go look at these practice times, Kyle Busch got better as we got into even the longer runs, the 20 and 25 laps, and there was quite a few cars that ran those 20 and 25 lap runs. So that was really good to see out of Kyle. I'm not necessarily on Kyle myself. Again, GPP play for any of these guys, but my top pivots, I like Logano. He's good at the super speedways. Him and Keselowski are always 2 that I'm looking at. He's starting 3rd, so he's going to need the dominator points because right now a win is not going to get him to 5x. Either is Elliott. Elliott needs less dominator points, obviously. If we give him 10 laps led, he can get you 5x easily with only 10 laps led. So I like that floor. Logano kind of needs to get you in that 15 to 20 range. I think they both can get there with laps led. I think they can lead more than that. And if they do, let's give them those 50 and just see where that puts them. 64 points. Yeah, they both can exceed 6x pretty easily if they are 2 of those 4 dominators, which I think they are. They're 2 of my picks, so they can easily get there. And I think they're going to be lower owned because I think a lot of people are going to be looking at that place differential, so we can get some leverage for sure. Going off these guys starting, I would say the first 3 rows, so the top 6, top 5, top 6 drivers, I think we can 2 or 3 of the dominators in this race are going to come from there. So you could see Joey Logano, Chase Elliott as my top 2. Outside of that, I think we could see Kyle Busch or Ryan Blaney possibly. So it's really just ended up narrowing that down, which I'm going to do because I'm mostly on place differential builds. If I'm doing 20 lineups today, I would say 15 of them based around a pretty heavy place differential strategy, whereas the rest is going to be dominator. So like I said, most of my exposure comes with those guys that I've already discussed here. And then when it comes to GPP, I'm probably going to try and limit it in this top tier at least to 2 guys, which is going to be probably Elliott and Logano, would be my next highest exposure in this top tier, just to try and get a couple of those dominators, because I do think there's a chance that they are outside possibly the top 5 in ownership, which I think is some nice leverage. Should they lead 50 laps, they have access to over 6x return on DraftKings. So it makes a lot of sense to load up on 2 of these dominator guys. And if they get there on their dominator points and maybe 1 or 2 of these high owned place differential guys wrecks out or just doesn't deliver today, you're looking really good in your GPP builds. Thoughts on both Dillons and GPP? Okay, so we'll go Austin first. Model hates him. Starting 17th, showed 0 speed in practice. So don't like that. He's really good in the Atlanta model. So he's had a lot of success here. Finished ahead of his 17 starting position and 4 of his last 5 super speedways. Ty Dillon actually stands out in the super speedway here. He finished 11th at the Daytona 500, but again, small sample size there. But if we go back when he was back in the Cup Series here, 3rd, 22nd, 12th, 30th at Daytona 500 back in 2020. So he's got a pretty good record here. Our record on super speedways, if you're looking at that model. Pretty good in the Atlanta model for Austin. Not bad, but I don't like the starting position for Ty. starting 18th, not really into that. I do like Austin. I know he's starting 17th, but he's had a little bit more success here. He's in a better car, obviously. So he would be a GPP pivot kind of in this range, but I will have zero exposure to either of them. Ty Dillon, it just comes down to I will have quite a bit of Reagan and LaJoy, and then like Custer and Burton. Even Michael McDowell here starting 29th. He's been pretty good at both super speedways and the old Atlanta. Looking at that, practice times were not great for him, so a little bit lower exposure. So he would be 5th or 6th in terms of order of these value guys down here for me. But I wouldn't talk someone off Ty Dillon. I mean, you could easily go in there. It could end up being a wreck fest, and we see a lot of these guys like the Mason Massey. I forget who the other guy was in the Xfinity Series, his teammate. That's pretty incredible to see both those cars finish up there inside the top 10 yesterday. That doesn't happen a lot. So we know it's like a super speedway when you see in these low cars. That's like wins for them almost, finishing top 10 in those 4 super speedway races, and or now Atlanta in there as well. So if this is how Atlanta is going to run, it's huge for the sport, especially some of these lower teams, because it gives them yet another opportunity to get up there and get some of these paydays, which is just phenomenal for these lower teams. With Larson struggling on super speedways lately, any concern for him? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Let's go look at it here. Only 2 top 10s in his last 6. Only 2 top 20s in his last 6 there. So yeah, not great, but he has been starting up front. So that has really killed his, let's say his fantasy value for sure, simply because, he's starting usually top 5, top 10 easily at Talladega and Daytona. But the finishes, yeah, I agree, have been underwhelming. 32nd, 37th, 21st at the Coke 0400 last summer, crashed out of Talladega. 10th at the Daytona 500 last year. So he does have upside. And if this is maybe a piece of a 1.5 mile style of super speedway, I'm really not concerned with him starting 21st. If he was starting, let's say 5th to 10th, I would probably have zero exposure to him, because I would be concerned that he would probably need, just like I said with some of these other guys, they're going to need dominator points at their prices. Ryan Blaney's going to need dominator points for him to pay off his price. And how many dominator points? Let's go look at that. How many he needs to get to 53? About 30 laps led. Is that possible? 100% it is. And he can even get to 6x. So the pricing is really nice for this race, because all of these guys starting like top 5 can definitely hit their 6x return easily, which is kind of what we're looking for out of the really high price guys, if you're wanting to win a GPP. So they can all get there just by leading around 50 laps. So from that aspect, you can definitely pick and choose anyone. I'm not going to talk anyone off any of these top guys. I wouldn't fade any of them outside of my own personal player pool is going to be very small. So I am fading some of them. But if I was building 150 lineups, there's no way I would fade any of these guys just based on, anything, especially this being like a super speedway. So I'm not worried about Larson. Again, long answer. I'm not concerned about Larson really at all. But again, just go and plug in if you are using the fantasy matrix, and you are looking at these guys that are not place differential. So say starting top 10, just go have a look and plug in. If you create your own copy, or just throw it at me in chat here if you want to see how much a guy needs, a certain guy that I haven't mentioned, possibly how many points they need, or how many laps led, how many dominator points they need to get you that 4, 5, 6x. Just throw it up in chat and I'll throw it in here. One I was thinking about here right away, someone mentioned using Tyler Reddick today. So let's just go look at that right now. He can hit you 5x with a 2nd place finish. So that is a really nice floor at his price. He's been fast. How's he done on the super speedways? Wrecked out of the last 2, but he's got top 5 upside easily with his speed and winning upside. How has he done so far this season? We'll just go look at the overall season numbers race by race. Yeah, 3rd and 7th in his last 2 after a shaky start. So he's just trended up all year. So definitely put him in the winning upside, and he can get you 5x with a 2nd place finish without any dominator points. If he's going to be low owned because Truex takes on that ownership, I love that leverage right there. Tyler Reddick over Truex ownership. And if he gets you, say he's one of the top dominators and gets you, let's say 40 and 10, he's easily eclipsing 6x there. And even at 20 and say 5, he's getting you over 6x. So love Tyler Reddick. If he looks like he's going to be outside the top 5 ownership, I'm not sure if anyone's looking at ownership projections today or anything like that, but if he projects to be outside the top 5 or even say half of what Truex is, I absolutely love that leverage, even without any dominator points. If Reddick gets any dominator points at all, he can crush his value and his ownership projections as well. Almirola. Okay, so he's starting 10th. So an 8th place finish is going to get him 5x, which you could probably deal with like a 10th at 34 points, kind of that 4.5x range. I think you could definitely deal with that. I don't think we need dominator points out of him at all, because 45.6 points gets you 6x, and that is top 5. But if he does give you, let's say 10 and 5, at 45 points, now you're looking at about a 7th place finish for him to get that 6x. He's been good on super speedways. We've seen his consistency there. So I'm okay with it. I'm going to have more Christopher Bell starting 27th for sure, showing the speed, just more upside, less risk in terms of floor. But Eric Almirola could definitely be in play, and he's going to be low owned. I think he's going to be a low owned pivot for you there for sure. I like Austin Cindric as well, starting 16th. I think he's even going to have more ownership than Almirola. So if you play Almirola, you don't need dominator points, him starting 10th at his price, and he can get you a 5x return at, say, 5, 6, 7% ownership. I think that's totally fine. So I'm with you there. A couple other drivers I didn't mention here before I wrap things up here. We're just over the 30-minute mark. Got some bacon that's waiting for me to cook it, so I'm going to wrap things up in about 5 minutes. Bubba Wallace, he's 9th in the model. Showed 9th overall practice speed. And again, something I wanted to mention, this is going to differ from what you see on NASCAR.com, because NASCAR.com, when they post their practice speeds, or say Bob Pockris, Jeff Gluck, or J-Ski, when they post that stuff, that is ranked by fastest laps. Whoever has the fastest lap is going to be ranked first in their model. What I'm looking at is all the laps that each driver has in practice, averaging that and then ranking it, and then showing 5, 10, and 15 lap averages there as well. If you want to go see fastest lap, you can go over to the practice tab. This is actually average. So what I'm trying to work on is, if you want to see just fastest one lap, I can definitely work that into the sheet. I just don't find that it is as helpful. Seeing it's helpful if you're trying to pick out who's going to win the pole, possibly. But it doesn't really help in racing. Racing, I really like the overall average, and then mixing in the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30, which we're not going to see a lot of the 20 to 30 lap averages, because a lot of these, we're going to be getting back to the qualifying practice weekends where we see 2 groups, 15 minutes of practice each, worked into 2 groups of qualifying after that, and then one final group of 10 drivers qualifying. So we're not going to see a lot of that. Any interest in Bowman? I've seen people mention him actually in chat this morning as well. Starting 11th, again, I'm not going to talk you off of him. He didn't really show speed ahead of that starting position, but again, if it's a super speedway, we can take a little bit of that out of the model for sure. Super speedway stuff here. He's ahead of Reddick in that aspect. In terms of fantasy scoring, hasn't been good because, again, the Chevys are usually starting up front. So he's starting a little bit back where he usually does in super speedways. So we can consider him a little bit more, considering that he doesn't give you that elite place differential upside starting 11th. I just don't see, I kind of see his upside probably in the, I'm going to say 8th to 12th. I don't think, for me, that's going to get him there. 44 points. He's going to need a 5th, 6th place finish to get you that 5x, which is, I think, what we need for him at that price range. He can get you 6x with a win, or, a couple dominator points in there. It's a 2nd or 3rd place finish to get you into that 6x. So I'm not going to talk anyone off him, but I don't personally have him in my player pool. It's just a little bit more risk. Just being surrounded by guys that have a lot more place differential upside that could, it's just a mathematical equation from there. But if you're playing that it's going to be a wreck fest, and say out of these Larson, Hamlin, Truex, and Keselowski group in this 8,500 and up range, if 2 of them crash out, or under deliver, say a Hamlin 20th or a Hamlin outside of 15th, 2 of them bust, then you're really starting to bring in the Byrons and the Bowmans, Kurt Bushes, or like I said, these guys that get 2 or 3 of these guys get dominator points in the even 30 to 50 dominator point range. Then you're talking a low owned, winning by yourself, not really splitting with 500 of your friends type lineup. So everything's in play here in this race, which is really nice. And I think it creates a nice spread of ownership, possibly. I think if it doesn't in this first race, we definitely will next year if people even remember how this works out. But in this first race, I think people, just because everyone has talked super speedways, we're going to see a lot of ownership concentrated to the place differential side of things. So there is a lot of leverage to be had here just going through the matrix. The fact that there is no driver over 11K and that they don't really need to lead 50 laps. 50 laps is like 100 laps on a normal mile and a half. Normally we see like the Larsons, if he's starting in the top 3, we need 100 laps out of him to see him in the optimal lineup. While here, these guys start in top 5. We're only looking for 30 to 50 laps led, and I'm predicting that we see 3 to 4 of those in this race. So if they come from these top 10 starting positions, you're going to see a lot of these high-end drivers in the optimal lineup possibly. So everything's open today. Going to wrap it up if there's no more questions. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back again next week for a show. I believe the race again, 3:30 p.m. Eastern or somewhere around there. I'm going to try and keep these shows somewhere around the noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time start. But stay tuned. I usually announce that Saturday evening or early Sunday morning while I'm up for the F1 race now going forward. So stay tuned for that. And if you're looking at F1, I'm going to keep that free going into next week as I add more and more stuff to the sheet. So again, if you want to check out my F1 content, head over to Patreon, or you don't even have to head over to patreon.com. You can actually just grab the free trial link in the description below to the Discord channel. You'll see that in the description of this video channel. I share it on social media quite a bit as well. Grab that, get in there, and the F1 channel is open to everyone, probably for the first 2-3 weeks of the season here. And then after that, it will be included. I'm just going to, instead of the NASCAR package, it's going to be the racing package. So I will just probably change the name of those other packages. They won't be NASCAR. They'll just be racing. So thanks for tuning in. If you got any more questions, definitely come back, leave it in the comments below. Hit me up in Discord, anywhere, DM me in any of the main chats, or hit me up on social media. That is on Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9. We're also on Facebook. Just search for Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports. Same with Instagram and same with TikTok. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great race days. I see the F1 race is over now. Have a good race day for NASCAR. NBA, NHL coming up as well. I got those sheets out. Going to be auditing that stuff going forward as well. PGA final round and match play next week. So I'm going to have that sheet hopefully posted tonight. The initial sheet, the field is out. And then tomorrow morning, right around, I think it's 1 p.m. Eastern, they announce the groupings, the final groupings. But the top 16 seeds and top 16, the top guy in each group is out. And I'm going to post that sheet or some information on that in chat. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great day. Cheers.